I'm sitting here with Avalla in pretty much the first week after Overwatch League finals, meaning we had a couple of dates come up, we had a lot of players released around the scene, and we just kind of wanted to make sense of Paris Eternal's moves so far in the offseason and get a little bit of an idea where we're at right now. So I guess it makes sense to first sort of explore what you think, where we're at the moment in Overwatch and how we plan things out. So, first off, did you take a break so far after the play-ins performances, or are you already preparing for next year?
No, not at all. I don't think I actually got a single day of break yet. Mostly because planning into the off season is really important at this stage, and I have to always communicate with the org to see like what our next moves are, what our plan is. So working with the org on who to sign, like what's for next year, I have not yet been able to take a break yet.
No, for sure. Now, it isn't easy being a general manager currently because we don't know much about the game. We don't know really what it will look like. We don't know what kind of roster you kind of want to have. For instance, Brad said you probably want one more player for each role. So support, extra support, one extra tank, one extra DPS. What is your strategy right now? How do you think is the best way to approach this offseason so far as a team?
I think if you look back into a lot of the games, especially that are 5v5, at the start of the era, it's always the mechanically gifted players who shine the most. It was like same with the Overwatch League at the start. And I think it makes a lot of sense for us to currently look at players who are very mechanically gifted and who also have the versatility and who can adapt to new heroes fast and quickly. And our strategy, it would be nice to have one additional player for each role, but with the budget that we have, that is probably not possible. So we are still looking to play it safe, probably sign something like 2 DPS players, 2 tank players, and 2 support players. But yeah, that is really where our head is right now. Everything is very unsure at the moment.
Now, naturally, you kind of would want to see those guys play the game they're actually going to play. That isn't currently an option for you guys. Everyone's kind of rushing towards the best players, I guess. You explained you kind of want the mechanical guys in your team first. Do you think it might be smart to wait a little bit closer to January when the signing window is going on, and we might have even seen maybe the possibility for any of those guys to have shown what they actually can do in Overwatch 2?
I think that is currently the strategy where a lot of teams are going. They leave like 1 or 2 core players for their roster and look to rebuild, and look to plan to sign players closer towards that January deadline to see what the game looks like. That was originally what our org wanted to do too. Our org wanted to not extend any of our players that we have options for, and rather just like wait it out to see what the game looks like, to see if these players will be good. But I also knew a lot of teams this year are looking to go mixed roster towards picking up the Western players. And I thought that if we don't sign anyone, we will be in a very bad situation. So I think for almost 3 weeks, through multiple different proposals, I tried to persuade the org that we need at least a few players back for us to have yet another successful season. And in the end, I was approved for only 4 players to return because of budget-wise. And yeah, that is why we are looking to rebuild with our essential 4 European core.
Right. Can you mention the names of the players that are currently re-signed?
Yeah, we decided to re-sign Dan, Khan, Tridro, and Naga.
Can you explain why?
Yeah, well, obviously, Duncan, Dridro, Naka are all very mechanically gifted players. Their hero pool is very wide, especially players like Dan. You know that he picks up new heroes fast because he's so good on ball, like Naga's so good on Echo. Like these players have already shown that they can adjust to new heroes pretty quickly. And they're the most vocal players, the ones that really decides like what to do in mid-match, changing up situations, and they're pretty much our in-game leaders. So we thought it made very much sense to keep these players.
Right. Now, another part of your staff that you decided to keep is JMAC. Now, of course, we're getting a new game. That's a lot of new strategies to be found. We know that JMAC has an immense dedication. We know he has an unorthodox coaching strategy. I think you mentioned he has multiple Discord channels in which he writes feedback in. Why did you decide to make JMAC your head coach this year?
I think what a lot of people don't understand is even if players are on a minimum salary, if they are extended, they mostly get upgrade on their contract. And if they do well, like this year, like Paris Eternal, where they make top 12, their contract value increases much more. And that's like same for our staff as well. Like the budget number for contracts we can have is the same, but you have these much bigger contracts for these players that I, in the end, I was only able to sign one of either Get Amazed or JMAC. And Get Amazed is, if you don't know, more of like a mental coach. He builds like strong leadership. He creates bonds within the team, whereas JMAC has a lot more strategic sides, like all of the like smart strategy, like playing Hog when everyone's playing like Winston Diva, or bringing up new strategies like map structures. That's a lot of those things are on JMAC. And especially with Overwatch being that new game and strategy being so important, not only me, but like everyone on the player, when I talked to them at the end of the season, they had like nothing bad to say about JMAC, and they really valued his strategic sense, and they thought that JMAC was a player that we couldn't lose. And JMAC gets a lot of praise within the community, and like the other coaches know too. So JMAC was actually had a lot of interest from other coaches to come and work with them. But so in my opinion, when I can only keep two coaches, it made more sense to keep JMAC, who was behind the strategic success that we had this season, rather than Amazed. Who was more focused on the mental part. Like in an ideal world where I have all the budget in the world, I want to sign Oni, I want to sign Vestola, I want to sign Get Amazed. But in a situation where a lot of my hands are tied up with the budget restraints and with the contract values that's gone up, the current decision that I made was like the best one in my eyes.
Sure. Now, you haven't fully filled out the roster. That meaning you will have to expend additional resources eventually when the window in, I believe, early January closes. Is there a possibility for any of those guys you mentioned to come back to the Paris Eternal?
Yeah, definitely. When I talked to like other players during their exit interviews, I told them like, if you get close to signing with any other org, do let me know so we can like look into it and to see if we can offer you a contract at the same time as well. Like, I didn't burn down the bridge saying like, no, you cannot absolutely come back to Paris. Like, we want to see, like, just as players explore free agency, we want to explore our free agency too, to see which kind of players are available, which kind of players are set to become FA, to see if those players fit into our play style, and yeah, go from there. So there is still a possibility for these players to return to the team.
Right. Now, the community tried to read some tea leaves with your moves. Of course, you have, as I said, or as was more publicly known, we have these 4 European starters. You have decided to keep JMAC now. The other information that the community tried to extrapolate information from is that JMAC's translator was being let go. So there was some rumors in there that you're going full Korean. We know now that's not true, but how will that work language-wise for JMAC as a head coach communicating with European players when, at least previously, he apparently needed the translator?
So the way our translation structure worked was during scrims or during matches, I translated all of JMAC's stuff. And our translator, Mumu, translated the feedback part, which was like an hour every day and some one-on-ones. JMAC's English, fortunately, has got better, so he's actually capable of doing one-on-ones on his own now. Our plan is to maybe sign a Korean coach who speaks good English so we can incorporate the synergy that we made in the 2020 season with like Rush and like Levy and A not having that good of an English, but because 9K had good English, we all made it work. It'll be somehow similar to that this year, I assume. Where JMAC does a lot of the deciding, but like he will still communicate with the players one-on-one, and then the team strat wise, like I'll help, the new coach might help. That is where we're headed right now. Like as I told you, I tried many different ways, many different proposals to make like most players come back to the team, and unfortunately, with that process means like giving up the resources that we had for the translator. So I'm stepping up more in terms of the translation part to do more work so that we can keep more players on the team.
Right. Is there then also with, I mean, so much elements of Korean coaching and yourself, is there a possibility that we're also going to see Korean players on the Paris Eternal then?
I think there is definitely a possibility. Our aim right now is to get the best player that is allowed in our budget. Like we don't care if he's Korean, we don't care if he's Western. Like if he is good and he fits well into our team play style, into our team culture, into our team structure, then we don't care where he is from. We will be signing him.
Is Poco one of those players that could fit that profile?
I think Poco is very high in our priority list for off tanks that we're looking into. Not only is he a great face of French Overwatch, but even though he hasn't played for a year, me and JMAC knows that like he is very capable of playing off tank at a high level, and he is also a very vocal player. And if you think about it, in our team structure, Don is like the in-game leader. Don does the most talking. Don does like 70% of the talking that happens in match days. So if we are to have one tank, our off tank also needs to talk a lot in order for that structure to work. And I think Poco is definitely one of the players that would fit into that profile. Of course, we'll have to see trials to see if that is my assumptions are true. But yeah, we are very interested in Poco at the moment.
For sure. Now, I guess as a last question, for the Paris Eternal friends, when is the next time they can expect news from your team in terms of pickups or other news generally around the next season?
I think we'll be quiet for a while. We're waiting for contenders to finish for us to do trials, and then there will be probably a couple months for us to do trials, to make decisions, to do contracts and so forth. So I think the next time you'll probably hear from us is late December, early January. And I think a lot of other teams will probably be around the same boat where they like waited out to see what Overwatch 2 is and like get more information from Blizzard. So I think that is pretty much when you can expect news from us.
Sweet. Then thank you for sitting down with us and clearing up some confusions that were in the community.
Thank you.